It's time to gather loved ones together for all the holidays' best spread. Lynn's has great prices on all your favorite Thanksgiving items, from delicious turkey with all the fixings to mashed potatoes and yummy pies. We have everything you need to create your perfect Thanksgiving dinner. Whether it's cooking the traditional meal, completely store-bought, or a combination of both, your best holiday meal starts here. Learn more and start shopping today at lynsgrocery.com. Lynn's, where delicious begins.
The views and opinions expressed by A Little Bit Culty are those of the hosts and do not necessarily reflect the official policy or position of the podcast.
No, they don't.
Any of the ridiculously thought-provoking content provided by our guests, bloggers, sponsors, or authors are of their opinion and are not intended to malign any religion, group, club, organization, business, individual, anyone, or anything. Also, we're not doctors, psychologists, or Her Supreme Holiness Gwyneth Paltrow.
Goop.
We're just two mortals trying to make a gluten-free, holistically helpful podcast that helps, informs, and entertains, and maybe moisturizes. Silky, silky smooth. Hey, everybody. Sarah Edmondson here.
And I'm Anthony Ames, a.k.a. Nippy, Sarah's husband, and you're listening to
A Little Bit Culty,
a.k.a. ALBC, a podcast about what happens when devotion goes to the dark side.
We've been there and back again. A little about us. True story. We met and fell in love in a cult. And then we woke up and got the hell out of Dodge.
And the whole thing was captured in the HBO docuseries The Vow, now in its second season.
I also wrote about our experience in my memoir, Scarred, the true story of how I escaped NXIVM, the cult that bound my life.
Look at us, a couple of married podcasters who just happen to have a weekly date night where we interview experts and advocates in things like cult awareness and mind control.
Wait. This does not count toward date night, babe. We got to schedule that. That's separate.
So it's 2 days we got to hang out?
We do this podcast thing because we learned a lot on our exit ramp out of NXIVM. Still on that journey, and we want to pay the lessons forward with the help of other cult survivors and whistleblowers.
We know all too well that culty things happen. It happens to people every day across every walk of life. So join us each week to tackle these culty dynamics, everywhere from online dating to mega churches and multi-level marketing.
This stuff really is everywhere. The Cultiverse just keeps on expanding, and so are we. Welcome to Season 5 of A Little Bit Culty, serving cult content and word salads weekly on your favorite podcast platforms. Learn more at alittlebitculty.com.
Sinking down to the depths of the ocean, hanging on to the weight of my love. If I let go of it all, I could leave, but I know I won't.
Our first AMA Season 5.
Emma,
Welcome back, everybody. Hi, babe.
that's your voiceover.
That's my NPR voice.
Yeah. No, not your NPR voice. It's just your, hi, everybody. Keep her peppy.
Here we are. Our first AMA here in Atlanta. Holy shit.
I know, we're
We
here.
moved to Atlanta.
How y'all doing?
How y'all doing?
How you doing, sir?
How you doing? I'm from Canada.
You look good. It's not that bad.
For some reason, that's just creepy. But, you know, people have been asking, why did we do this?
Really?
Yeah.
Only people in Canada were like, why are you moving to the South?
There's some people who are like, why'd you move from Canada? Well, they're curious. And it's really a lot of reasons, and we shall reveal those. But one of them is that, you know, we were ready for a fresh start after everything we'd gone through.
Theoretically, a house you can afford.
A house you can afford, being close to Nippy's fam.
Let's be honest. Football.
Football, yes, I definitely moved here. Well, as most people know, that's not part of my upbringing, but I feel like I've really embraced it. You know,
You have.
I really
You
have.
My son's team name is the Cougars, and all the moms printed out these hats with gold lettering. It says Cougars, and they went to the
Thanks,
game.
Amy and Shauna. I love my cougar hat.
Sarah was like, okay, I'm going to roll with it.
Just gonna go with
You've
this.
been great.
Listen,
You've
I
been great.
resisted being a hockey mom back in Vancouver because the hours, you have to get up like really early in the morning, and I just can't.
I
Well,
would
as they
never
would have
be a hockey dad.
As they would have said in NXIVM, I was too attached to my comfort and my sleep.
Me too.
Yeah, and that's true. That was more important than my son's burgeoning hockey career. And then soccer mom, you know, there's the typical soccer mom, but I am officially a football mom, and I
I'm a
had my
football dad. I'm a part-time
well,
coach.
that wasn't, but that's like a natural progression for you.
Yeah, I suppose.
You know, that's coming from playing quarterback at Brown and
How about the fact? Can I
What?
tell I'm wearing a purple wristband right now.
Why is that important, Nippy?
So for people who know college football, and I don't think that's a lot of our audience.
We'll do an episode on the culty shit that
college
happens.
football,
And,
we'll
yeah.
get some people.
How about them dogs?
How about them dogs? Troy's football team has a kid on it named Bobby Bowden, and he's the great-grandchild of the legendary football coach at Florida State, Bobby Bowden. And he's on his team. And I got to meet Bobby Bowden's son, Terry Bowden, who was a coach, and he was a head coach at Clemson. And we went to Bobby Bowden's grandchild's birthday on Sunday and had all this Clemson paraphernalia. And I'm a big wristband guy. Call them COVID bands because that's when I started wearing them again. But we moved right into the heart of college football and then had the great-grandchild of college football's grandchild on our team. So
That was so cool.
it's
And
just
also
crazy.
Bobby's son, Terry, young Bobby's grandfather, was really cool. And then we found out that they were big fans of The Vow. So that was
And there's been a couple people who like recognize this, but they don't say anything because they don't know our comfort level. And they're like, we saw y'all show. So, yeah, just let us have it.
I mean, at this point, we're pretty public. If
Yeah.
you see us out in the world, you're totally welcome to say hi.
But worlds have collided, right?
Our worlds
College
have
football
collided.
and Colts, and it's been great. Everything's fallen into place except for the house.
If anyone knows of a home that's suitable for
Or a
our
house that
family,
you just want to give away.
yeah, like you just feel like passing on your home, we are ready for one. Oh, and I was at the Florence and the Machine concert, which
Yes,
was
you
an
were.
amazing show.
Ditch me with the kids.
It
Well,
was,
whatever. It's cool.
but I didn't tell you this because I was saving it for this moment, Nip. It
Really?
was really interesting because a lot of the audience was dressed in like sort of costumes, kind of like a cosplay kind of feel to it, but with these like flower wreaths and a lot of people in sort of like ethereal fairy
Stevie
bird
Nicks.
costumes. And there was I don't know if you've seen the movie Midsummer about a cult. It was sort of a midsummer vibe. And I was clocking that and feeling a number of things as I was watching this incredible, like,
Nostalgic?
not nostalgic, no, but she spoke to the audience a number of times and saying like, Georgia, you're amazing. This is my terrible Florence impersonation.
It's not
but,
bad.
But then she said something about like, the parents of any younger kids that were there might look in this audience and say, what is this? Is this a cult? And she said that. And I was laughing with my friends that I went to the concert with about it did have that, that vibe. And then I was reflecting while listening to the music, as you do, that I was having an experience. I had a couple moments where the music was, took me on a journey and I got emotional. Don't laugh. Don't make that face at me. Nippy's like just the judgy face. But I was thinking about.
I'm loving you, Sarah.
I
That's
know.
not judgment.
Thinking about like, I don't go to church. I don't go to synagogue. For me, that is what music is. And it's what, you see a big group of people. I wasn't dressed that way, but I was, in a sort of peasanty summer dress. And so I fit in. I felt like I fit in.
But
And
carefully picked out and curated.
yes, for sure.
Let's be honest.
No, absolutely. But I was thinking, damn, I wish I'd brought my flower crown because I have one from Erica's bridal shower. Anyway, I digress. My point is that is kind of culty, but like
But you
benign
can go
cult.
home without
You can go
repercussions
home,
to your family
but this
that
is-
they're not trying to divide.
right? And you could leave without
Lots of
being
distinctions.
shunned. But there is this like hero worship, and there's somebody on a stage. I guess the thing that the element of it that I miss not being religious is feeling like there's an emotional swell
For sure.
of the
Gospel
music.
music.
Gospel music is incredibly heart gripping. Of course, the gummy helped a little bit. But those are the things that like Alice Gretchen talked about in our episode with her about evangelical Christianity, that she believes that there's like a hypnotic,
Well, that's probably
trance-like
what's
state.
leveraged, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
And then they also couple that with the need to belong. You got the precursors.
Et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah. It's been a great, one thing that Atlanta is known for is its concerts and its food scene. And we're just,
And it's highways.
just the highways are crazy. Could someone please do something about the crazy drivers on the highways in Atlanta? Could the police pull people over for driving like it's a death wish or like
That's
it's
pretty
what's that
nuts.
video game where you
Grand Theft Auto.
yeah, like it's insane. So here we are. We survived 6 weeks in Atlanta.
It's great. We're loving it.
And
Fall's great, Sarah. You're going to love the fall here.
I already do. And how are you feeling about the Vow coming up in a couple weeks? Vow season 2.
How am I feeling? Do you want to answer that one first?
Just like all of you, I don't know. I don't know what it's going to be other than we know that there's a focus on the trial. And we now know from the official trailer that Nancy gets interviewed. And it was definitely cringy to hear her voice and to see her, what seems to be, and I haven't seen the whole interview unless there's like a, hate to use this term, but come to Jesus moment in the end where she recognizes.
Come to Vanguard
Come
moment.
to Vanguard moment where she takes responsibility, but she seems like she's not yet. I don't know. But some people have said, like, why give her or Keith a voice? That's not fair to the actual victims. And, I think at this point, anything that they say is not going to, I could be wrong. I'll weigh in on this when we do our Patreon behind the scenes live stream
That's
debriefs.
right. Look at you.
I'll weigh in on it then once we've watched it. But right now, there's nothing that they could say that I think anyone in reality in the world would go, oh, maybe it wasn't so bad. Oh, I see the merits of branding, or whatever.
I've said this before. And
Are you going to say it again?
I'm going to say it again.
All right. What's that, babe?
Oh, you're psychic. Unless the narrative is, oh my God, how are you? How are you doing? Sorry I didn't have your back. Sorry that what you went through, and more responsibility. And the premise and the conversation is under those assumptions. I'm not really interested in engaging in any sort of discourse about the vow or anything like that, And I'm not interested in really watching people try and bend the truth to save themselves, even though I feel like I'm going to watch it because it's our story and we're commenting on it. The only thing I'm curious about really is what really went on. But other than that, I'm not interested in going down and opening up that latent kind of...
That well?
Well, your nervous system goes through that kind of rush, when you kind of see the story and you're involved with it. And I'm tired of that. I like where our life is going. I like the fact that our problems right now are getting our kids to school on time rather than trying to take down a cult and deal with all the stress of that.
Yeah, it's nice not being stressed about that stuff.
The vow is kind of a reminder of that. And I never gave validity to stress until I went through it in that degree. And I'm just not particularly interested in that. I'm not particularly interested in seeing people that were hurt have their words twisted and then shamed and all that stuff by a select few of people who have refused to pivot to the truth. So that part of it, it's also, we were friends with those people. I don't like seeing them in that place either. Mm-hmm. So it's like a double whammy. And then you feel like you got to take their shit a little bit.
I agree. I do feel, however, like because we haven't been allowed to communicate / we're being shunned, so we can't communicate. Yeah. Because I have had that, there's this whole, I am curious to see what's happened outside of our bubble. And that's not necessarily with the loyalists. It's just everything. Like when we saw season 1, we saw things for the first time in real time with the rest of the world. For me, there's something kind of like healing about having the closure to wrap that part of it up. I'm curious in a sort of voyeuristic, weird way of like, okay, so what was, while we were healing or while we were recovering or while we were talking to the FBI, what were these people doing? Mm-hmm. For me, it's like filling in the voids of
knowing what actually happened.
Happened and sort of fleshing out the whole picture so I can wrap it up and put it in a box and put it away. And hopefully we'll be able to do that after the 6 weeks of the vow premiering. It'll be 6 weeks. Every week we are going to do a live stream and debrief it. And that's going to be cool. And you can interact with us on Patreon.
And we're going to be doing Patreon. It potentially with Mark Vicente every time.
Yes, and maybe some other ex-Nexians, also known as Nexian. What do we call them?
Nexians.
Expians, we called them. Stay tuned for that. But we're going to be unpacking a lot over on Patreon. But yeah, that's how I feel.
Yeah, about sums it up.
This is the golden age of cult recovery. The more we speak up and share our stories, the more we realize we are not alone. Your voice and your story can empower others. This is Sarah, and I'm proud to be a founding collaborator of the #IGotOut movement. Learn more at igotout.org. Well, we've also been enjoying our daily messages from our listeners, even though we've taken a big break, and we really appreciate you being patient with us. We needed this time, but I promise it'll be all worth it for what we have.
SpeakPipe.
Yeah, so we have this thing now called SpeakPipe, and people are leaving messages.
I'm just going to leave it alone because I think that's a mature thing to do, but I've been cracking some jokes.
Yes, we'll leave it at that.
SpeakPipe.
Yeah, you can imagine what Nippy did with that name. Before we do, there's one person, I'm not going to say his name because he wanted to be anonymous, but he gave me permission to read out his journey with us. And I think it's interesting because I'm sure it kind of makes me happy because I'm sure he's not the only one. It's basically somebody who like reached out way at the beginning saying, you know, he just thinks it's not good that we are, I'm summarizing here, you know, we're painting all spiritual leaders with the brush of, you know, that they're con artists, and he thinks it's dangerous to like lump everybody together. And, you know, was hesitant about that angle that we were taking, but also, and then every now and then he would weigh in, and then he shared that he felt like, okay, we're not doing that. We're just giving people the tools so they can analyze, is what their leader's doing okay or not okay, whether it's yoga or business or whatever the background is to the behavior. And then he wrote to us that he wanted to share something and that he was possibly wrong. And I thought I wanted to share this. So he said, I know your messages are growing and growing. And a while back, I pointed out that I thought all gurus and spiritual teachers were being dogged unfairly. And the more I heard from your responses, the more I realized that's not what you meant, but that we should have agency to think for ourselves and be aware of the red flags. And so he doesn't want to out this person, so I'm not going to mention their name. But he was realizing that this group that he's gotten a lot of insight from through meditation and other practical tips for health and life. He said during one meetup, someone told him how he could take the next step and bring his focus deeper by making a commitment to a lifestyle of being more receptive to his grace, and sent him a link. And the link is basically offering to pay 7% of all of your income to the guru. And he basically said he realized that the verbiage of this offer had so many red flags, and it alarmed him strongly only because he'd seen the vow and listened to the podcast, and he decided he would not accept the honor and privilege to fork over 7% of his life savings, to which we said he could use that money to buy some a little bit culty merch and join us over on Patreon, to which he thought that was very funny. But we had this whole back and forth about it, and it really stuck out for me as like a win for the podcast and for what we're doing, because I feel like if we can give people tools to see the red flags and make informed decisions, great. Again, we're not pointing out you're a cult, you're not a cult.
It's just knowledge.
Yeah.
You know, that was the whole impetus behind this thing, is turn our story into knowledge and content.
Yes.
Boom.
Boom. We're fist bumping over here, guys. Now people can also share their feedback and tell us what chaps their respective asses and tell us about their cults on SpeakPipe. And they can ask questions.
Respective asses?
Yeah. Isn't that the proper grammar?
Sounded funny.
Oh, yes, it's funny. Okay, so here we are. This is a question for you, Nippy. I'm going to play this.
Hello. I was just curious. Nippy has nicknames for everyone, and I was wondering, does he have a nickname for Keith Raniere, like both when you were in Nexium and after Nexium? I really love your podcast. Thank you.
Well, Lynn, when we were in, it was more I just called him Keith when I was around him, which wasn't often. But since then, Van Douche has taken the lead and a lot of times I just call him the judo champ.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because that really sums it up.
Yeah.
It's a real judo
Which,
champ.
incidentally, I hear he's getting his ass handed to him in prison.
So why doesn't he use his judo
I'm
champ
just wondering,
skills? Oh, no, because he doesn't believe in violence, actually. He's
I'm just
nonviolent.
wondering, like,
Just like Gandhi.
when do you use those judo skills? I think that prison would be a great place to test it, since he's all about testing and wanting to know measurement and where he stands with things.
Yeah,
he
that's a
always
good
wants
idea.
to earn his authority.
Mm-hmm.
Prison's a great place to do that.
It's also a great place to really see how enlightened you are, since he always spoke about that true freedom is in the mind and that you can experience joy no matter what your circumstances are, just like Nelson Mandela. And I'm quoting him. I'm not being facetious. That's what he used to say. So it's really just karmically beautiful, poetic. I would also add that when we were in Nexium, we often didn't call Keith and Nancy Vanguard and Prefect. We called them P and V. Like, hey.
Yeah, I didn't.
Well, it was in text format, but people referred, which I also thought was kind of funny, secretively, because people all the time, like Lola would be like, P.
Oh, you mean the inner circle?
Yeah, people refer to them as P and V, which I also thought secretly was funny because it was also penis and vagina. But nobody.
That's your work. That's your.
That's just my level of maturity.
That's your work, Sarah. Good to know.
But since then, you're right. Van Douche, Voldemort, as you know, sometimes we call him Alan or KR.
I try not to call him.
Yeah, I try not to refer to him as anything. But he also had nicknames for a lot of people, right? Lauren was for Lauren.
Yeah, no, those weren't nicknames. Those were insults.
Yeah, well, now we know it's insults. I will say for me, I think I've talked about this in the podcast, Mother of Troy, the way he said it, I didn't understand like what the joke was, but I think it was a joke on the other women who couldn't have kids. I think it was his own cruelty for the other women. That's what I think, but I don't know.
Never know.
Never know. Okay, so next question.
Hi, this is Jennifer Rose from Texas. Hi, Sarah and Nippy. I love you guys, and you guys are an inspiration. I wanted to share what chops my ass, and that would be when a partner gaslights their significant other and makes them feel crazy. It really chops my ass because of the fact that I feel it takes away their sanity, for one, and it makes them not trust their own intuition inside. And when they can't trust themselves, it leaves them very vulnerable. So it really chops my ass when I see that. And it was done to me, so I know how it feels. But yeah, so that's what chops my ass. And you guys are doing an amazing job, and I love the healing journey for y'all. It looks really good on you. All right, love y'all. Bye.
Jen Rose, I love that it's the healing journey for y'all because I feel that way.
She's saying chomps my ass.
I think she said chops.
chops.
Yeah,
It's
just like Jen.
chaps.
It's just, it's chaps my ass. But either way, I mean,
I like
think
chop. I mean, we can add
we
that
can roll
segment.
with that.
Chop/chap.
Gaslighting from anyone sucks, and we agree. We agree.
Yeah.
I specifically.
Sarah tries it with me. I tease. Why? Because I love. Yeah.
Well, we laugh about this too. Sometimes, in normal marital challenges, one person has something to say to the other person, and if you respond with anything other than "thank you for that feedback," like, well, you do this too.
I'm not sure I've ever responded with "thank you for that
Exactly.
feedback." To be fair.
So if I'm like, "Hey, Nip, can you get off your phone?" If Nippy goes, "What are you talking about? Like, you're on your phone more."
Oh wait.
Then like technically that
I don't
is
sound like
could be gaslighting, but it's also just deflecting,
Yeah.
and not looking at what I'm pointing out.
Yeah.
Versus like, "Oh, sweetheart, thanks for pointing that out. It's what you're saying. You'd like me to be more present. Let me attend to that and your every need."
Yeah, I don't go. I'm feeling vulnerable right now because
I'm pointing out a flaw.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, you don't.
But that's really what's going on.
Yes.
That's the subtext.
But we have to say, like, every time someone's deflecting isn't necessarily gaslighting. And I think we talked about this when we had Amanda Montel on our episode that,
it's
overused.
It's kind of then going on the offensive and making whatever's going on with you the problem.
Right.
Right.
That chaps my ass.
And we have like gaslighting offs when we're in like joke fights.
Yes. And I think we're going to do a whole Patreon bonus episode.
You keep saying that.
Where Nippy and I just like gaslight each other back and forth.
I can't see that being that fun and
Well,
interesting for people. I don't know. Maybe. I don't know.
Like, say something to me and I'm going to give an example just to entice people. Give me a complaint.
Oh, I got one.
Mhm.
This is real. I hate waiting for you in the car.
I knew you were going to say that.
Well, it's literally, you take that element out of our relationship and
we're perfect, right? So you don't like when...
I don't like when I have to wait for you in the car when I'm ready to go.
And what about it specifically bothers you?
I feel like you're totally disrespectful of everyone else's time.
And how does that relate to your life issue?
So good. It's so
you can
good.
always flip it back.
Because now I'm like, well, you're saying I don't give a shit about people's time?
Well, no.
Well, that's where I go in my head.
It would really, if we were next year, you would have had to go journal on how me doing that brings up your issues around disrespect and how that relates to your life issue of like how you don't respect or fully love yourself and your own relationship.
Longer talking about the fact that you being
right. It takes it
late.
off me, puts it back onto you, which you may have that issue.
Back to what I was saying. Back to the original gripe.
Okay, so let's play with this for one more minute.
I'm done.
I've got more to say.
No, because this is a real issue.
So no, you say you don't like waiting for me, right?
Yeah.
And I could say, oh, you seem really upset about that.
I do, yes.
Yeah. So have you journaled about it?
I don't journal.
It seems like you're vested, and I would suggest that you talk to your coach about what's the fear underneath that, and then we can have a discussion.
Do you want me to handle this like I'm not being gaslit?
Yes.
Or I'd be like, I'll do all that, but let's address why you're late.
That's how you'd respond to it outside of Nexium. But if he said that to me in the context of Nexium, I would say something like, it seems like you're not willing to look at the issue, and that's fine. You don't have to look at this. This is your life. And if you don't want to grow through it, that's totally your prerogative. But I'll be here for you.
Faux empathy.
Nippy. Yeah. If it was really real, it seems like you're not willing to look at this yet. And that's totally okay. Everyone will tackle an issue when they're ready.
And that's okay.
That's okay. Oh, okay. One person in particular that would say that in the most annoying voice, and you couldn't escape.
Oh, dude. Well, you could escape. You just shut up and leave.
Yeah.
That's what I would do.
Hey there, listener. Hope you're enjoying this episode and that you're remembering to hydrate, stretch, and unclench your jaws. Sometimes listening to conversations about heavy topics can really make you tighten up, you know? And remember, a little bit culty loves you. Also, come hang out with us on Patreon after you finish this episode. It's fun over there. Fun is good. And now, here's a brief message from our sponsors. So we're going to do a whole episode where we just gaslight each other.
Well, let's just bring some people on and just gaslight each other for 30 minutes. I don't know if people are going to sit through gaslighting for 30 minutes. They might do it for 5.
To pay to
hear
do.
gaslight. Just don't do it to them. Okay.
So that's like an example of the kind of thing we're going to do. What else are we going to do?
Ask the next question.
Oh, we were actually going to EM somebody. Yeah, we're going to bring somebody on with an issue and give them a sample EM. Our good friend Billy from Seattle/Arizona has been asking for an EM since the vow aired. I don't want to touch it, but it'll be fun.
I'll let you do that.
Yes, we'll do one more.
Sure.
Hi, you guys. You just saved me $750. So I wanted to thank you guys. I've been listening for a while and learning so much about the bite model and being able to really see people who are taking advantage of other people. I have a chronic health condition, and I sought out, somebody said, oh, you got to go to this energy healer. And I was like, I don't know. But tried it, and in the middle of the session, the energy healer's husband walked in and immediately interrupted what was going on and said that she said, he's magical and he's really helpful, and so he'll just take a look at what's going on here. And he immediately took over the session and did a bunch of quote diagnostic things and said that I was overloaded with quote dark entities that were brought about due to vaccination for COVID. And anyway, he said that I had to have this meditation, he called it, where he would bring in spirits from the outside to cast out these dark entities, and he would do this by going into the ocean, and that it would only cost me. He like joked. He was like, "Oh, it'll only cost you your daughter," which of course, like my yeah. Ha ha ha, and then it'll just cost you your husband. And then immediately I started thinking about the bite model, and I was like, oh, check. And he started to say, I'm really amazing at this, and I've done this many times, and so this, and so that, and I'm the best there is, and blah 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 blah. And it was just, it was more than a little bit culty. It was like, oh, this is Keith before he had 10,000 followers. And this is why I'm going to say no right now. And I did. And I said, no, I'm doing great. And thanks so much. And then he said, well, obviously you're not doing great, which I'm not actually. And I said, thank you for this generous offer. I need to make a clear decision about this. And now is not the time. And he pushed back. He said I was the worst case he'd ever seen, that I needed clearance now, that if I didn't, I was at extreme risk for a stroke. And I said, again, this isn't the time for me to make this decision. He says, is it the cost? And I said, well, you haven't told me how much. He's like, well, it's $750 and blah, blah, blah. And I said, you know what? Again, this just is not the time for me to make this decision. And he said, well, this is clouding your judgment. These dark entities are really, that I can feel that they're getting in the way, and on and on and on. Anyway, so I finally shut it down by saying, I know this seems crazy to you for me to decline, but I need to make my decision, and now is not the time. And so he finally went away. He first wanted to talk to my husband, and he wanted to talk to a mutual friend of ours, and I said no to both of those. So I think I said no like 6 times. I don't know where I'd be if I hadn't been listening to you guys. So thanks so much. And keep doing what you're doing and educating the larger public. because there's a lot of people out there that I think they are doing a good thing, but are misguided and can find their way into greed and bullying really fast. So thanks so much. You guys are awesome.
What do we learn from that, Nip?
That what we're doing is working.
Yeah, I really
That's great.
appreciate that she trusted her gut / took what she learned from the podcast and
I made an informed decision.
again, she can use the $750 towards some Little Bit Culty merch joining us over on Patreon. Just kidding.
Invest in Bitcoin.
Okay, so we're going to wrap this up with a good and a bad review. I have some lined up.
Oh, yeah?
I'm going to read you what I found, what my favorite was.
Sure.
Okay, I'm going to read the good one first. This is from Catherine Myra. I'm constantly searching for a good podcast about cults. I've listened to many of them and thought I'd run out of all the good ones until I discovered A Little Bit Culty. I love that it's Canadian, as there just aren't enough Canadian podcasts. It's real and intimate, and Sarah and Nippy are not afraid of questioning and revealing their deepest thoughts and motives. I like the interplay between them, which is moving the story ahead rather than just talking for the sake of talking, although we do tend to talk a lot, as in a lot of podcasts. Thank you, Catherine. And I thought that was a good contrast to go with this one, which was only 1 star. This shows you how this is, it's not objective, it's subjective. This person wrote, got sick of the podcast title within the first 3 episodes after hearing it nonstop. Shortly thereafter, I got sick of the hosts who are nauseatingly cute with each other. There are better and more serious podcasts about cults out there. I don't mind being nauseatingly cute.
That might be true, too.
And there's definitely way more serious podcasts about cults, but that's not our jam.
No, I was talking about the nauseating part.
Oh, yeah. Also true. This one I thought was just hilarious. Also got 1 star from Recbat. Ex-culty people dancing around being anti-vax / anti-mask and still drinking the Kool-Aid. First of all, Recbat, it was Flavor Aid in the Jonestown, and that's just, obviously, you don't even know what you're talking about.
Do
Secondly,
your homework.
anti-vax, anti-mask? Have we ever said anything about anything like that? I don't think so.
I don't like wearing a mask.
I mean, I don't know if anyone likes wearing a
in
mask.
general.
And if you look at my Instagram,
You'll see me on a plane looking like a complete idiot because I'm wearing a screen and an N95.
oh, you remember when you wore like the
Yeah.
hard hat and the thing in front of your face?
I've been all over the spectrum on what to believe on this.
Oh, I mean, listen, we will always be questioning everything because we won't ever just be sheep again. Doesn't make us anti-vax, anti-mask. And if you can't question shit, then that's culty.
You gotta log on and put 1 star for that.
Yeah. What about another positive one? Let's end on a positive note. How about this one? This is 5 stars. I have to tell you how much you've touched my heart, moved my spirit of healing, and created a new and healthy way of following a movement, your podcast. I hope not in a culty way. I now realize that I woke up not just once, but 4 times in my 49 years. I'm a year alcohol-free on Friday, the 15th, and let me tell you, it's been a year of self-discovery and self-acceptance. You guys are part of that journey, and I want to thank you for sharing your truth and guiding me to accept my decisions with no shame and becoming even stronger in my healing. With gratitude, Nick. Thank you, Nick, for sharing that. Great segue into asking. The ask is, if anyone's had a good experience, please share your thoughts in a review. It really does help the podcast. And share it with a friend who you think might be in a cult. So thanks for listening.
Yeah.
Thanks for listening to our AMA.
Okay, everyone, that's it for now. And if you want more of what we're serving up, join us at Patreon, as Sarah's mentioned.
Multiple times.
We'll be unpacking, which is a term I think we need to find another word for, our episodes, and also almost every frame of The Vow Season 2 in detail. And there are all kinds of fun treats for subscribers over there as well.
And be sure to leave us a voicemail at littlebitculty.com/voicemail, and we might answer it on air very soon. Just let it rip.
Wave us some
Hit
chairs.
us up. Thank you, guys. See you next time.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Sinking down to the depths of the ocean, I'm hanging on to the weight of my love. If I let go of it all, I could leave, but I know I won't.
Hope you liked this episode. Let's keep the conversation going and come hang out with us on Patreon, where we keep the tape rolling each week with special episodes just for Patreon subscribers and where we get deep into the weeds of unpacking every episode of The Vow.
And if you're looking for our show notes or some sweet, sweet swag or official ALBC podcast merch or a list of our most recommended cult recovery resources, visit our website at alittlebitculty.com.
And for more background on what brought us here, check out Sarah's page-turning memoir. It's called Scarred, the true story of how I escaped Nexium, the cult that bound my life. It's available on Amazon, Audible, narrated by my wife, and at most bookstores.
A Little Bit Culty is a Talkhouse podcast and a Trace 120 production. We're executive produced by Sarah Edmondson and Anthony Nippy Ames, with writing, research, and additional production support by senior producer Jess Tardy. We're edited, mixed, and mastered by our rocking producer Will Rutherford of Citizens of Sound, and our amazing theme song, Cultivated, is by John Bryant and co-written by Nigel Asselin. Thank you for listening.
So have you
Exactly.
ever done a show in PVC?
Yeah, man. I did a tour in PVC and I regret it a little bit. I do, man. I regret it a little bit because I was just like, it wasn't very flattering on the top and then my knob was showing the whole time.
Moving right along.
Anyway, moving along.
Mum's like, I don't want to talk about your knob.
I don't want to talk about your
Not right now.
Not right now. We'll do it after the cameras are off.
So yes, you will.
Billboard chart-topping singer and songwriter Youngblood joins the Osbournes podcast. Listen now wherever you get podcasts.
What is your pre-show ritual?
I mean, yeah, occasionally I'll probably have for on stage. It loosens you up, doesn't it? What?
I was totally joking. I didn't expect you to be on it.
Oh, sorry, fam. I'm always on it.
Moving right along
Anyway,
again.
sorry. You know what I mean? Gets you loose, doesn't it?
You know what your dad does? He prays.
Does he? Mm-hmm. Does he pray? Fair. I love that. Cool.
Billboard chart-topping singer and songwriter Youngblood joins the Osbournes podcast, dropping August 13th. Listen now wherever you get podcasts.